Look at this Scrooge. Now look at this Scrooge. They're both the same man, or at least they're meant to be. Now, Dickens doesn't describe Scrooge with any physical features. In fact, all he does say is that he has old features, a pointed nose, shriveled cheeks, he's stiff when he walks, his eyes are red, and his thin lips are blue. That's all he got. It's not a full physical description. He's not saying Scrooge is an elderly gentleman with jet black hair or anything like that. So, how on earth do you use that description to portray Scrooge? What I've gone for is I've stuck to a pointed chin and a pointed nose, and I've given him a sort of angular jawline. I'm giving him a typical Victorian outfit because I'm going with the popular interpretation here. We're not doing anything new because I don't have time to. So I'm going with elderly Victorian gentleman Scrooge. That's what I'm going for, okay? It's important to note that when you're doing something like this, when you're trying to illustrate or portray a character that doesn't have a physical description, or that, you know, doesn't really have a set appearance in in visual media, that you can do whatever you want, really. That's how we ended up with the Luke Evans Scrooge from the Netflix series, movie even. That's how we ended up with Jim Carrey's evil, sort of shriveled version. And that's how we end up with Michael Caine's Scrooge, where he's elderly Victorian gentleman. We've got Albert Finney, again, elderly Victorian gentleman, with similar features because I I don't know, the first Christmas Carol adaptation, whichever one that was, somebody down in the comments tell me, that set the bar because that was the first one. It's important to note that obviously with A Christmas Carol, with any older novel, including stuff like Pride and Prejudice, sometimes you're not going to get a physical description of these characters. You're not. So you have to use your own judgment in how they are portrayed in your artwork or your story or whatever. So what I've done here, I've made Scrooge angry. And this is a little cheat for you guys. It's just a draw in the other eye, copy, paste, and flip horizontally. I had trouble finding the flip function, but that is going to save you so much time. With his hair, I might have gone a little bit sort of fancy with his hair, but at the same time, it's either that or it's a straight line, and that's not good for the artwork to have a straight line. So we're just gonna go with it. Uh, the issue you have with a character like Scrooge is that everyone knows what he looks like, or at least they know what he looks like in the version of A Christmas Carol that they first watched. For me, it was Muppet Christmas Carol. So when I'm drawing this, part of me is inspired by Michael Caine. And the reason I did those little lines on the hair is to sort of simulate some kind of light shading and to simulate the woodcut drawings that you find as illustrations for these novels. I mean, it's really good. The woodcut thing, not my version of it. The other reason I wanted to do this video is to point out that when you're illustrating a character from a book, from anything, you need to try and stick to the feel and the vibe that that character gives off just as much as you need to stick to the actual physical description. It's hard to pull that off, by the way. Now, I made a huge mistake here. I am not happy with these hands at all, so I promptly left, looked at some references, and decided, you know what? I'm going to hide this arm. And you know what? I'm going to have him grip the top of his cane as if he's like really, really gripping onto it so that you don't see any awkward finger placements. Because I'm not good at that. So, yeah, pretty much the entire point of this is to say that how you view a character is not wrong. Your view of a character is your view of a character. That doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you draw, for example, I don't know, Ash Ketchum differently than somebody else. It doesn't matter. It's your view, and that's what matters. When you're drawing something, it's your view. Now, onto the colouring here, I went for desaturated colours. Because Scrooge isn't a bright, happy person. I went for dark brown for his eyes, dark brown for his hair. I'm going to be lightening the hair up in a minute. But I did that because, again, he is not meant to have much colour on him. He's not meant to be someone who stands out. The vibe he gives off is what makes him stand out, nothing else. And that's what I tried to illustrate here. With the actual colour of his suit, I don't use black, as you know, because it washes out the picture. So I use a very, very dark, very, what's the word? Saturated. Yeah, burgundy. And that is very hard to shade. In fact, later on when I'm doing the shading, you'll see that it doesn't show up at all. For his boots, I hid the ugliness of my line work with very dark colour. And I did the same for his cane and for his glove. It's the easiest thing. If you want to hide any unfortunate line work, use dark colours. They generally do the job extremely well. So, yeah, it's a dark burgundy suit. It's a dark black / brown for the shoes and the cane. But I wanted to have some colour in there, so I went for a lighter red on his lapels. Don't ask me why I went red. I just felt like that was a good colour. And for his cravat and for his waistcoat, I went for browns. I went for slightly darker, desaturated browns. In fact, the only pop of white on his in this entire drawing is the suit, the shirt, and the handkerchief. And there's a pop of gold there for his cane. Other than that, he doesn't need much colour. So now I go on to shading him. How do you shade this? First of all, lower the opacity and go for a desaturated medium colour. I went for blue because it's Scrooge. We want him to look cold. We want him to have that sort of frozen vibe to him. And I tried to illustrate that with bags under his eyes and sort of hinting at his sunken cheeks. Didn't do too well on that. I'm still learning. Give me a break. You're not going to see the shading work too well on the hat because it's so dark, and on the rest of the suit again because it's so dark. But yeah, this is what I did. Even though I draw all these shadows in, you can't see them, so I'm not really too fussed on how tidy they are and how neat they are. Normally, I'd be a lot more careful in this. But Scrooge is a vibe more than an actual character. Like, you could call him John, and as long as he still had the vibe, you'd know that in a modern retelling, John is meant to be Scrooge. You don't even have to name him Scrooge. And then, of course, yeah, normal stuff. Now, I hope you have a good Christmas, guys. I will see you in my next video, which should be before the end of the year. And here is the finished background is a stock image version.